All right, we have started our live feed. Thanks for stopping by. Just got through doing a short review of the Glendullan Select Game of Thrones bottle. And check it out on the side if you haven't. If you're in for the long haul, welcome. And we'll be talking about it a little bit with Malt Muser in a little bit. Also, we'll see if he's had any of this, anything from the distillery, and see how that goes. Give me 1 second, guys. I just got to do something real fast here. And those coming from Alt's channel, I really appreciate it. He's been lucky enough to get, I think, above 500 now. He's doing really well, and congratulate him on that. I'm still at 335-ish, so I need a little help. Hey, one, good to see you, man. How you doing, and what you sipping tonight? Thank you for stopping by. You're a regular at the channel. I really appreciate it. And have you ever had, if you haven't had the Glendullan Select, have you had any Glendullans? What'd you think of them? If you haven't had the Glendullan, have you had either the Glen Ord or the Dufftown? I'm just curious if you've had any of the Singleton series that Diageo releases. Just curious to see your experience on it. Swami was on the last feed, and he was already heckling me, so I'm sure he'll be joining here soon. Hey, Daniel, good to see you, man. Have you had a Glendullan? And if not, have you had a Glen Ord or a Dufftown, anything in the Singleton area? And let me know what you thought of it as well. Same to anybody that's coming over. Meister French, good to see you. Richie Z, wow. I really appreciate the support. And yeah, let me know what's your thoughts on either this bottle, or if you've had a different one, what you thought. Let's take a look. I've had that one. I totally agree with your review. I appreciate it, man. I'm glad that you got to stop by for the short live. I like to do it for people that don't have a lot of time to hang out with us, like we like to do, after the fact, when we're just chatting about whiskey in general. I'll try to kind of keep to a theme of somewhat, but it's good to kind of go around and get people's ideas. Yeah, it's not horrible, but it's definitely not, it's not something I would recommend to a lot of people that I know that love whiskey like I do. At the same time, for your whiskey buddies that want to come by and like to drink your stuff, this is a good one to have, to be like, hey, you want a little more? Give them a little extra big fat pour, and you won't feel so bad. Daniel says, I've never heard of this distillery, even apart from the Game of Thrones. Yeah. I'll kind of give you a rehash when Malt stops by here in a little bit about what I looked into, what I found out, more details about what Diageo has, what they do with this guy. Hey, I'm bringing over a suggestion from Malt Muser channel. Please ask him for a sample of the Shady Glen Scotia and do a show about it. The audience would love it. I'll definitely will yank his arm a little bit to try to get him to send a little something if he can. I'm not sure what his shipping situation there is in the old. I think he's in Pennsylvania, so it's kind of tricky, maybe. But maybe we can do a drive-up swap or something, because it's not that far from Philadelphia from where I live. So maybe if I planned it, maybe even though we can't hang out and we can talk from a distance, maybe we can do like a distant somehow do a distant live review together. So I don't know. We'll figure out something. That's the goal, at least. Yeah, all is well. It's a Tasty Tuesday, and it's been not a bad week. Work's been kind of steady, and I'm definitely thankful to still have a job and able to do things. People are getting along and surprisingly being helpful, and I have no complaints this week, at least. So talk to me next week. Maybe I'll have a deal. Andrew Page never heard or had a Glendullan. Looking forward to the discussion. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, this is the reason why I wanted to bring this one up, is because not only can you get it for a really, really, really low price, being part of this series, I think will get it more notoriety, and I know that's what they're shooting for. But we'll talk about the more heavy details, in a second about that one. Brought up the on the comment section before he switched over. By the way, pouring some Old Forester 1920. Damn, that's very old. Old Forester is one of those bourbons that I think gets a bad rap for like it's one of the maybe it's basic offerings. Do you like that one a lot? Is that a pretty good one? I'm not really familiar with the Old Forester as far as like some of their specialized stuff. So I'm not sure if that's like a release that's literally from 1920, or if how'd that come about. Just give me a little education on the side. I've had all the bottles in Dufftown aside from this distillery: Balvenie, Mortlach, Glenfiddich, Kinninvie, which is a blend. It's a single malt used a Monkey Shoulder with Balvenie, and there was one other one. It wasn't Kleinlich. It was Kinninvie. I think it might have been Glenfiddich of all things. I got to look it up. If you know off the top of your head, Daniel, let me know. I know it was Kinninvie, Balvenie, and I think it was another one that was either a Glenfiddich or like a Glen something. I could be wrong. It's been a while since I've looked at and sipped it. Yeah, we're having a good old time here. So yeah, we'll come back and talk about that one too. And yes, sort of. I live in Severna Park, which is basically between Annapolis and Baltimore, closer to Annapolis though, like 8 miles north of Annapolis. And DC is like 30 miles away, but it's not terrible. Malt Muser used to live in DC, and now he's in Philadelphia area, so it's a bit different. So we'll have to figure out something there. Argentina, all right. Well, welcome. I don't speak Portuguese, unfortunately. No, it's not Portuguese. It's Spanish, isn't it, in Argentina? Brazil is Portuguese. Argentina, I think, straightforward Spanish, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to remember how you say Buenos noches, I think. I'm learning French right now with my little one. My Spanish is absolutely abysmal. Old Foresters referenced the prohibition in the style of their whiskeys at the time. Okay, it's a fantastic near cask strength whiskey, bourbon, lots of vanilla, caramel, and spice. Okay, I gotcha. Daily Young whiskey, better recipe from that. Okay, that's cool. The one you're missing is Glenfiddich and the Monkey Shoulder. Oh, there he is, Mr. Steven. I was wondering if you were going to stop by for the lowly Glendullan. We'll get to that in a bit. Steven just answered it, and guess who just stopped by? I'm going to catch him. I'm going to catch him while he's not looking.
What's up, buddy?
Hey, I always like to catch you in mid, like, turning around pouring. How you been doing?
Trying to mess up my entrance, buddy. How are you, man? Nice to see you.
Pretty good. I was just chatting with Steven and Daniel about the Monkey Shoulder blend and how it's consistent of it contains three whiskeys that are pretty well known. It's the Balvenie, the Glenfiddich, and the Kinninvie, which is that real small. It's like 375 milliliter bottle that they only have like a 17 and a 23-year-old. And they charge like this astronomical amount from it for it. I got a lead though. One of Steven's buddies had a bottle of the 23 and didn't really want a crazy price, thank God for it, not a secondary market price. He just wanted what he paid for it. So I might be able to get my hands on that, possibly. It's a iffy, but I'm going to try.
That sounds good, man. Yeah, it's been a while since I had Monkey Shoulder.
Me too. And the Kennedy is really, I think it's nice. It reminds me of a good Japanese whiskey, like a Hibiki 21, kind of that type of thing. But, it's not as rich, I'd say. It's probably more like a Highland version instead of a Speyside version, if that makes sense to you.
Sure.
It's maybe fruity. It's maybe a little more floral, but it still has the, the stuff in there. That's pretty
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be honest. I can kind of. They have a 12-year-old, right?
The Kennedy, I don't believe so. From what I remember looking at, because when we were doing our tour, someone had the 17. I want to say it was Aquaman, probably, or it might have been the 23. I think it was the 23. But the 17 and 23 are the only two that I remember seeing a lot of, which is kind of sad. And like I said, 375 milliliter for the bottle. I mean, that's kind of weird too.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think it is worth a taste. I mean, I wouldn't spend secondary market prices for it, but if you can find it for
monkey, yeah. I mean, and the monkey shoulder thing. I mean, that's just one of those whiskeys that I like to recommend to somebody who is on a budget, hasn't really had Scotch, who thinks Scotch is like the Johnny Walker Red that was sharp and abrasive that they had when they were sneaking a glass of it when they were 16, or they think it's all like Lafroig. I mean, it's a good, palatable, gives you a sense of the dynamism that Scotch has. It's affordable. It's, it's fine. Totally fine for a blend. I think it's a decent blend. I wouldn't, at this point for me, it's not something I'd go pick up, but I definitely don't turn my nose up at it.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for people, I think, getting into, like you said, Scotch for the first time to wet their beaks.
Yeah. So what's been up, man? Have you got anything new recently? I know that you were doing Glendullan tonight. We'll be interested to hear about that. I was chatting with some folks on my happy hour. They had not had Glendullan either, so we're all very interested to learn a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's funny. I just picked up a couple new ones, and ironically, right before I went on to do the short review for this guy, I saw that Aaron, ARRAN, they posted a Twitter announcement for their new line, and ironically, the three bottles they chose, I think they were NASs, and people were kind of freaking out about, what are you doing? You're getting rid of all of our, A statements, and you're putting out these NASs and whatnot. But what they failed to realize is they just put their first three. They also have like a 10, I want to say an 18 and a 21. And I picked up, luckily, where did it go? I was just, it's back here. 1 second. I picked up this guy on the side, just kind of looking,
21-year-old. Okay.
And this is the new, brand new release deal, and they completely revamped their look. It's definitely more basic, but
I like the look.
What do you see there that you like to see? Natural filtered and natural color.
Yeah. Is that 46%?
This is 46%. So
nice.
I'd like it to be 48, but it's not, it's not horrible.
Yeah, I mean, I like the new look. The other stuff with that kind of flair that they had in the font they used, I don't know, it felt outdated.
Well, the weird thing was, and you can see it for yourself. Go check it out on the side. People were kind of up in arms about their design being too basic, and I'm like, why do you care so much about the look of the damn bottle when you should be caring about what's on the inside of it?
Well, I mean, here's the thing, right? I guess.
It's like, how much do you rate it?
Ballblair did, right? They didn't do what Ballblair did, which was not only switch their label to something kind of generic, but also went away from the vintage statement. They had age statement stuff before. They just changed label. Ben Romick just went through this same thing too. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. Does presentation matter? I mean, this is a good question for the chat. I'd be curious. Again, I know that most of us, it's about the quality of the spirit, but I know presentation, especially if you're trying something new, subconsciously, presentation probably kind of gets, has a little bit of influence. I kind of like the new Aaron look.
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that they keep it pretty bold. It's even got Braille, for God's sakes, on the bottom where it has the single malt Scotch whiskey, where you can actually read
Really?
it if you're blind. Yeah, it's Section 508 compliant, for God's sakes. It's it got the coordinates in red, basically of where they're located. They have a nice year presentation. It's got the non-chill filtered natural color.
Yeah.
It's got this really kind of bright blue. It kind of shines in certain light side kind of deal going on, and it's got a nice back. It's just in basic gold, and it's got some stories if you're into that kind of thing. But I mean, I actually like the fact that it didn't go all gaudy and crazy.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's not Highland Park, right?
That's the thing. It's like I do think marketing does make a difference, and you do want it to pop to a certain extent, but you don't want to buy the bottle, bring it home, crack it open, taste it, and think, why did they spend 75% of their time and fuss on the outside of the box and bottle when they could have spent that on the inside? That's when I get pissed.
And admittedly, I mean, I've had the Macro which was not one of my favorite whiskeys. I know that they had just batch variation in that and so on and so forth, but I generally thought it was okay. And this 21 intrigues me. I mean, I'm assuming you got that overseas, right? Because I mean, I don't see that in the States relatively recently. Maybe I can. I know I can't promise anything. But maybe
I sent you a link to get that if you wanted it.
I'll see if I can swing it by next week. Maybe that'd be fun. I don't know where that is on your review schedule, but.
Well, I when I saw that post from Aaron and all of the hoopla after it, I thought, you know what, I'll take a little picture and tell him I'll do it next week. So I kind of told him I would do it next week already.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I can kind of move it if you want to take a step.
I'll let you know by tomorrow.
It only took me like about 4 or 5 days to get it delivered, even overseas. Believe it or not.
Too. I mean, that over $150?
No, that's the funny thing about it. Let me see if I can find the. Let me see if I can find the price that I paid for that one. Here we go. That one was. Let's see. Almost have it. Here we go. 95 pounds. So what is that roughly?
In that like 120 range.
95 pounds.
That's not too bad.
To US dollar is 120 basically. For a 21-year-old, I mean, unless it's just how many
21-year-olds you can get at that price these days.
That's the way I was looking at it. I mean, it's a brand new line, so I did get past the neck pour. I'm not going to give anything away just yet, but I think it's going to be better if not this, at least the same as the Benrag 21, that type of thing. It's about the same type of price area if you do your homework and find it, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I'll look into it, man.
The other one that picked up this week, and I'll let you tell your story, is the Elisa Bay, which is this is a brand new distillery, and it's they had 2 releases so far. The first one is just a one. And it's just a basic 3-year inaugural type thing. This is called 1.2, and it's a sweet smoke where now this is when you get into marketing. This is I'll try to give you like a close-up look. Basically, they get into what you call micro maturation, where they're talking about sweet ppm and peated ppm. It's getting now. These are guys.
Hey, who they're talking to, though. I mean, that's not made for John Q. Public, right?
Yeah, this is inspired by the creativity of science. They get into the whole engineering aspect of it, but I'll talk to you about that in a second. But this talks about, like, it's got a 22 peated parts per million, which 22 is like not as strong as Laphroaig, which is around 30. Ardbegs are usually around 40. This one's kind of like underneath, but not as low as like some of the run-of-the-mill, like the Benryags or Balvenie peated ones.
Yeah.
The sweet parts per million, that's where I'm kind of, not quite sure what they're getting at, but it's 19, and I guess they're trying to balance it. It's 48.9% ABV, which is kind of cool. But I tell you what, I got burned by scientific whiskeys. Remember back, I guess it's been a few years, where there was this, I forgot what the distillery's name was, but they were doing everything in-house without any type of maturation using barrels. It was all like in the lab. Oh man.
Yeah.
It was crazy. I was at a DC Expo. I wish to God I remember the name of them. It was the first place I went to because I thought, you know what, I'm not going to ruin my palate if this is horrible. I'm just going to go and see what it's like and get the first experience. And let's just say I can see that it's going to take them a long time to get it right because it was so, saccharine, almost kind of aspartame, just fake sweet tasting. It just wasn't good. So if you ever hear about that engineered whiskey, stay far, far, far away from it. This one hopefully won't be that bad, but we'll find out. I did like the inaugural release, I will say that. So hopefully this one will be fun. What did you pick up recently?
Man, I've been on manor mode for the most part, man. I've not got anything really new. I've got the opportunity to taste some new stuff though, thanks to a friend of the show, Daniel, who sent me 5 different samples of different Balcones. I was just on the happy hour talking about a peated Balcones. Have you had any of the Balcones stuff?
That's the Texan thing.
Yeah, Texas. This is a French oak.
I want to say
single malt Texas Bach, which is like another malt. It's made by the guys who do Shiner Bach, a peated single malt. Got the opportunity to taste some new stuff, which has been fun, but nothing really new.
Do you know a guy named Bobby Purnell by chance? Bobby Purnell, does that?
I don't.
He was around a bit. I think I met him from the Scotch for Dummies like after show or something one time, and we got to talking. He sent like some Texas whiskey, and I think one of them was a Balcones. All of them were decent. I just wasn't really into getting heavily into American whiskey at the time because I wanted to focus on the Scotch deal.
Sure.
But I did taste them and gave them kind of my own kind of interpretation of what it was, and it was a lot better than a lot of other things I've had that was either Japanese or American. So
yeah,
it was a pretty good job, I think.
I think a couple weeks ago, I finally got a bottle of Red Spot. I think that's the only thing. This was 2 weeks ago, which is the 15-year-old. I haven't opened it yet, but I'm about to. I got a bottle of that, and there was something else too. But yeah, that's been it, man. I've been keeping it on manor mode to some degree, but I'm interested. I might try and swing this Aaron 21 for next week. That sounds like something worth pulling the trigger on.
Yeah, I think it's even if let's say you get it. I mean, I know I can definitely tell you it's not going to be bad because I already had snuck a sip of the neck pour. But even if you didn't enjoy it as much as you think you would, I definitely think it'd be worth putting it kind of like in your portfolio of taste experiences. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
That's the kind of the way I look at it sometimes when I'm trying a distillery where I'm kind of like, well, I know that they sometimes put out good stuff, but yet I don't really have anything that's older than my last bottle was a 16. Was the old 16, and honestly, it was not that good. I even shared some with Everwind. He's also usually on channels here and there, and he wasn't a big fan either. It was a bit kind of missing some sweetness and balance. It was kind of minerally / savory, and I don't know, just kind of flat, I guess is the word for it.
Sure.
But this one, just initial experience, I think I liked it better than the Benrag 21, which to me was a bonus because that one wasn't a letdown, but it wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. You know what I mean? It's kind of
for sure.
Kind of a decent, for 21, but man, she put Rachel Berry put a lot of work in that glass for it to not taste as good as it should have, I think. She had 4 casks. It's like
that might not be the first time I've heard that criticism levied at with the.
But when she does 4 different casks in, the PX and the Virgin Oak and the I even forgot that red wine cask and another one. I think one was ex-bourbon or whatever. And it's like once you put all that work into it, and I don't know, it sounded like a lot of work for just something that came out to be decent, you know. And you don't want to say decent when you're spending all that time and effort on a whiskey. You would think.
Yeah, for sure.
Like this one is what I would consider, decent, but it is, colored and chill filtered. And talking about the Glendullan here, the Diageo did that series for the Game of Thrones, and
was that from that original Game of Thrones release?
Yeah, it was from the first, and thankfully you can still get it for $30. It's extremely cheap, so that's why I thought it'd be a good bottle to do, because this is a bottle to keep on hand for all your friends that aren't into whiskey yet and they want to try something. I had a friend over and I gave him a Glendronach 12. I gave him a Lafroy 10, not in this order. I gave him like a Highland Park 12. I gave him like a lot of different things to see where he gravitated towards, and ironically he picked this one. So for people that are bourbon drinkers out of the gate, this is just an ex-bourbon cask, even though it tastes more complicated than just straightforward ex-bourbon to me. There's no peat. It's a space side, 40%, colored chill filtered, unfortunately. It's got green apples off the top of the nose, some hay and some straw, some nutmeg, and some cocoa. I'm going back some old notes here. Medium florals and some heather, kind of like a Highland Park-esque feel to it. The palate's toffee, caramel, vanilla, some dark brown sugar, some coconut. It's got a slight grapefruit thing on the back that I don't really care for, but it's got some black pepper in there. The finish is short, dry. It's got like some slight molasses, some cloves, and some spun sugar, but nothing to really write home about on the finish. It's a bit of a letdown. The water brings out on the nose some citrus like lemons and oranges, powdered sugar, and some woodiness, but it tames the palate down to where it gets even more mineral, and the finish was the same without the depth of the flavor with, even just a drop or two of water. So I gave it a 3.25 out of 5 because
that's not bad.
It's better than what I would say an average for what it's supposed to be. But it's not, definitely, I wouldn't give it to Stephen Connor.
Yeah.
He would shoot me in the face if I gave him a discount. But here's another sad part, and sorry to ramble, but I just want to get this out.
Ramble it out, man.
The Diageo I was doing some research just to try to figure out if they used, if we're going to just use this for blends, or were they trying to make this a brand? They're actually thinking this is going to battle Glenlivet and Glenfiddich. Can you believe that shit? I about lost my lunch. I about died laughing when I read they think that this might be the way to battle Glenfiddich and Glenlivet. And I'm thinking to myself, really? You guys are out of your fucking minds if you think this. Because you've got to go back to the crafting board. Because if you look at this, they have another NAS, right? They have a 12, they have a 15 and an 18. And guess what ABV all those motherfuckers are at? 30%.
Really? I was going to say it and I didn't want to because I was depressed.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
40%?
So, I thought about getting my own 18-year bottle of Glendullan, just because I'm trying to get an 18-year-old at least from every distillery, but it's going to be one of the last ones on my list for 40%. And I thought, well, what if I, save up and go to the next level? Maybe there's even a next level that has a better ABV. I had to go to the 38-year-old for several $1,000s just to get 48%, 48.9, I think it was. And I'm like,
Jesus, really?
That is just horrible, man.
Yeah, no. I wouldn't even mess around with that.
The only Game of Thrones bottle Andrew had was the 9. Disappointing and not too keen on checking out more Game of Thrones bottles, except for the Talisker. Heard some good things. If you were disappointed by the Lagavulin 9, I actually wasn't. I thought it was
solid,
decent. I thought it was definitely. But I thought
it was actually better than the 11 Offerman, which was a bummer.
The 11 Offerman to me was definitely a little more bitter, abrasive. It felt younger, even though it wasn't younger. It's kind of weird.
Right.
I do like the 9 better than the 8 as well. I mean, the 8's good for a straightforward ex-bourbon, cask peated whiskey, but I thought the 9 was nice because it had some sherry, bounce to it. But if you're not down with that, Andrew, I'm not going to say don't get the Talisker, but the Talisker in the series is not like any other Talisker they make. That one in the Game of Thrones series is very vanilla forward and does not have any hardly maritime. It has a little bit of seashell note, but the maritime and the islands goodness that Talisker usually brings to the table is not there. Now that said, it's an interesting sugar cookie Talisker if you're in the mood for that. But if you're not in the mood for something like that, I would give it a hard pass. I like it though. I'm saying that since he didn't like the Lagavulin 9 though, he probably won't like anything that's outside the realm of what he's used to getting out of the distillery. But
yeah, for sure. And honestly, I don't think the 11 is. I don't think it was bad. It just wasn't.
It wasn't as well balanced. I think
this is one where price matters because I've seen it at 65 to 70 where I was like, yeah, buy it. But I've also seen it 100, 110 where you can get. I mean, even the 16 I think is better than that.
Oh yeah. If you can get the 16, for the price the 11 is good for a try, but yeah, if it's over $80, I would say no. Maybe 90 would be my threshold, but and that's just to give it a try. But unless you like really woody drams, it kind of reminded me of the triple wood from Lafroig. It was heavy on the wood oakiness to the point where it was almost bitter to me, but a couple drops of water and it settled right down for me, and I thought it was pretty good. But I agree with you. I like the 9, the 8, and the 16 and Distiller's Edition better than the 11. But the 10 is a hard pass. That's that travel retail exclusive.
Yeah, I remember you saying that. Yeah, you said that was really bad.
Least favorite of the entire Lagavulin series by far.
I was so bummed. So I was in Ireland. Yeah, September last year. So this is about 2 months after that Lagavulin 10 had come out. And I was like, oh man, I got to get that because I went through Heathrow and I went through Dublin Airport because I went to London as well as Dublin. And I was hunting for that because I'm like, whoa, age statement. And it's probably going to be $60. Yeah, I got to get this for €60. And I couldn't find it anywhere. And so I was kind of bummed because I'm thinking to myself, oh, shit, why are they putting a 10-year age statement Lagavulin as a travel retail exclusive only? And maybe it's just because of the amount they had or whatever. And then I saw your review and I was like, oh, they did it because it sucks.
Yeah, I think the only.
I mean, you don't think it was as good as the Lagavulin 8, right?
Oh God, not even close. Not even. I mean, this. I think I gave it like a 2.25, and the 8. The 8 I would give like a 3.5 to 3.75. It's a decent 8-year peated whiskey.
Yeah, for sure.
But this 10, I don't even think this 10 should be considered a good whiskey. Even that's how bad it was. Yeah, it's rough. I think that the travel retail, the reason why some are so bad, like the Four Oak from Lafroig, is another good example. Yeah, it's it was a lot like the Four Oak.
Oh man, it's so depressing.
I think it's because they try something, and and when you try something with a whiskey, you're at least 3 years invested in it, right? So once you get to that 5th, 6th year, and you realize, oh shit, this is not going the way we want it to. How can we make $1 off this, but yet not make it part of our core? I think that's unfortunately where some of these distilleries go for their travel retail market, and it's sadding because you can't get some gems like the Balvenie 12 triple cask,
Talisker Darkstorm.
Yeah, I mean some of them are gems. Some of them are really good. Some of them can be really good.
Yeah.
Even some of these, I'd love to try one of these New Highland Park 14, 16-year statements they have, like the Raven Wolf crap. But, I'd love to try it to see if it's something that is on the good side. Because Highland Park has some decent travel retails that I've had in the past. but they usually aren't our NASs. So for them to do some ages, I'm hoping that means that they're, just a little bit better. But
Yeah.
it's definitely a crapshoot when you're playing the travel retail game. And the Anclemore is one of the best Laphroaig bottles I've ever had. I love the Anclemore.
No, you've sung the praises of that. I've never seen that. This must have been shortly after you and I met. So it was late 2017, early 2018. I remember I went to Turkey and I was like looking for that one because that was the one that you had mentioned. Like, yeah, get yourself a bottle of this. I ended up finding the Krokvana Bunahaven, which I also
think good. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was a really solid whiskey.
That's one distillery that does not shortchange you on travel retails. I'm not sure why, but I'm not complaining. Bunahaven always has a good travel retail exclusive, I've noticed. The Erina Grain's really good. The Krokvana.
Yeah. The
Ankledoc. All of them are pretty solid. You can't go wrong with them, I think,
Yep. Yeah, it's a bummer, man. I mean, like they're hard to get.
What's everybody's favorite travel retail bottle, if you can think of?
That's a good question.
And you don't have to travel to get these. If you do any online ordering overseas, you can get these really easily from England. That's how I got my Anclemore. I had a buddy traveling. I got my PX and QA casks that way. But the Krokvana, the Erina Grain, the Ankledoc, and some of the other ones, I've never had a bad deal trying to get a travel retail that way, at least. Do you have a favorite travel retail?
I'm thinking about that. Like, as much as I don't love Talister's younger stuff, the Dark Storm was solid.
That's one of my favorites too, actually.
I have a bottle of the Glenmorangie Tane, which I haven't opened, but I've sampled it, and I thought that was pretty enjoyable.
I need to try that. Before I forget, somebody mentioned it was Neo Xerxes, if you know who that is.
I do.
He said that we should try to do a joint review of that Glen Scotia bottle that you've been kind of dealing with.
Oh, yes. Dude, we should. I'm going to put some of these in sample bottles. Yeah, no, you definitely need to try this. I don't know if you know about the saga, but this has been a recurring thing for like over 2 months on my channel about a hand-filled distillery bottle. This is why I ended up getting to interview the guys from Glen Scotia.
Yeah, I was thinking if you were up for it, I'm not sure how logistically we could do it. I think we could figure it out. Maybe we could meet halfway and keep our distance somehow and maybe like do a joint review with like our phones or something. I don't know. I don't know if it's.
Well, yeah. I mean, like if you're, I want to definitely like defer to caution, but if I don't know what the testing regime is in Maryland, but if you find yourself the opportunity to get tested and you're clean and I'm also clean, maybe we could just get together and do one of these things. And, keep ourselves within some distance. Again, I mean, depends on how we would want to set it up. But,
yeah,
I know that we had wanted to do this for some time, but it's obviously COVID is what it is.
What we could do maybe is meet up in a park that's outside.
Yeah, right.
And do like we bring a couple bottles each, at least, maybe a few. Driving home is going to be kind of the interesting part.
Exactly.
Have like a couple hours to spend, doing like whatever, and then like an hour of being on, and then an hour off, just kind of recuperating, and then maybe driving back or something. I don't know. We'll have to touch base on that and figure out something.
Yeah, we'll figure it out, man, for sure. That would be like, I think we should figure out a way to do it because I think it would be a lot of fun. And we've been hyping it for long enough. And
I don't mind shipping. I just don't know how easy it is for you to ship something right now. I could definitely get it to you, but I'm not sure if you can get it to me.
Shipping here is fine. I've just been more paranoid than anything. Like I have a box for Food Quig I got to get shipped out. I'm sure we could probably at least get to the point where we're shipping stuff.
Yeah.
If you want to, for example, like if you want to send me a bottle of or a sample of that Aaron 21, maybe we could try. I mean, I don't know if we can make that happen for next week, but we could probably try that.
Yeah, if you, I'll, um, I'll send you to make it worth the while. I'll send you a few things. I'll pick out that one and a couple other ones. I'll surprise you with a couple, and then I'll try to I'll try to get it out as soon as I can. That way it gets to you before. It should take a few days. I'm thinking at the most because we're so close, but we'll have to figure out
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it probably shouldn't be a big deal. But yeah, I mean, eventually, like, I think that's the direction we want to take things. You know, like, once this all gets, well, to some satisfactory level, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We can get to the point where we can taste stuff together in real time on the show, which I think is going to be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, big time. Oh mine.
I definitely have some stuff I want to share with you, including the Highland Park 21.
Oh yeah.
Teapot Dram. I definitely got a couple that I would love to do live with you, so that'll be a lot of fun.
That would be a ton of fun. I'm still looking at the next go. I'll talk to you about on the side about a couple bottles. I'll try to see if there's anything that I know we talked about that Balvenie possibly.
Yeah, the 12 single barrel.
Maybe I'm kind of iffy on it only because the place that has it always marks up bottles like $30-$40 at least. And
what are they charging for it?
I have to look again, but it was at least $100, I think, or something more. I have to look and see. But I was like, wow, I don't know. But no, I'll talk to you on the side, and we'll sort out like the next time when I'm getting ready to order something else. I'll see what you're getting, and we'll try to get something that's similar.
Yeah, for sure.
At least the same distillery or something, maybe.
No, yeah, definitely. That would be ideal. I think that you would be pleasantly surprised with that. That Balvenie, the 12-year-old single barrel. It's a good pour. I mean, it's not going to blow your mind, but it's a good pour.
That 15 single barrel blew my mind. Jerry. Oh man.
Yeah.
I love that bottle. I wish I had more of that. I went through it pretty quickly.
Another thing we get to consider, Telex, is going in halves on.
Yeah, now you're actually think about that. You're right.
We could look at something that's like a bit more on the expensive side. I mean, you mentioned the Balvenie 15. I'm thinking Balvenie 25.
Yeah, and to make it fair, we could like one of us keeps the first one, the other person keeps the second one we get.
Yeah, totally.
Flop it kind of that way. That wouldn't be bad at all.
Yeah.
Well, let's start think about your wish list, it sounds like.
If we combine our powers, we will be indestructible, my friend.
We could do some crazy stuff if we combine our powers. I have a feeling.
Yeah. Snick, Wolverine.
Oh, man.
That's good. Daniel said, don't just sneeze on each other and touch each other. You'll be fine. It's crazy out there, but it isn't that crazy. Yeah, fair enough. I'm with you on that. Like, yeah. Probably make it happen.
Yeah, I'm the same way as you, though. I've been ultra careful where I did ship a couple things out, and it was kind of interesting. Like, you go into UPS, and they have these markers where you stand, and, I took some hand sanitizer with me in the truck and kept it in the truck. And as soon as I was done, using my card and all that, as soon as I got back to the truck, I just doused my hands with all that crap. And
for sure,
I already had a mask on.
I'm the exact same way, man. I'm not screwing around with this shit.
But that's the only time I've been really next to anybody else besides the family is to make that one shipment that I had to send out, but thankfully that's the only time that I've been. And that was several weeks ago, so I know I'd be surprised. I also have one of those oxygen meters that you put on your finger that does the pulse, and it's always 98% oxygen. And I've heard if it gets gets lower, if it gets below like 90 or 80, that's when you've got problems on the COVID deal. So
holy shit, yeah.
It definitely pays to have one of those oxygen readers if you can get one. They're selling like hotcakes, so if you can't find one, that's the reason why.
You heard it here first, y'all. This guy's not screwing around.
No, I don't. I pay attention to all the things because I got an 11-year-old and I've been debating on school in the fall and all that mess. And
oh yeah, man, I can only imagine.
It's not fun, but
yeah.
we're definitely going to be playing on the safe side as much as we possibly can. Let's put
For
it that way.
for sure. Yeah, that makes total sense. And like, that's what any rational person would be doing right now.
Yeah, there you go. Neo Xerxes, the pulse oximeter. That's the word I was looking for. It's not something you use on a daily basis, so I forgot what it was even called. Hey, Mike Valletto, good to see you, man. Is that
Mike's back. What's up, Mike?
Is he from your channel?
Possibly.
Well, welcome either way.
I mean, he may have been here already, but yeah, Mike usually joins on Happy Hour. We had a good chat earlier today.
Okay. Hey, Mike, have you ever had a Glendullan, and what did you think of it if you've had one before? The other three things that are like in their umbrella for Diageo is you'll notice that you'll see, it's kind of tricky. You'll see the words the Singleton on a lot of different.
Yeah, the Singleton. Yeah.
Think of that as it's just
I had to look it up. I had to look up Glendullan to make sure I could pronounce it correctly. Because I was like, is it Glendullan, Glendullan? And so, of course, Horst Lunig at whiskey.com said it was Glendullan. So
there you go. The other two under this umbrella is the Glen Ord and the Dufftown. And they have different like profiles. Like I think the Dufftown's supposed to be more like nutty and spicy. This one's supposed to be fruity and sweet. And then the other one was the Glen Ord, and it's a Highland. The other two are space sides. The Glen Ord, the Highland one, is more like a floral and vegetal. So depends on what kind of profile you're looking for. That's the way to kind of go about it. They do. Mike asked if it's a Flora and Fauna bottle. They do have a Glendullan 12 Flora and Fauna bottle. I've never seen it available, and I don't know if it's one of those unicorns where they used to have it and don't have it now. I'm suspicious that they probably don't offer it anymore because they do have their regular 12 that they sell under the Singleton brand.
Yeah.
But that's hey, Trooper. Sorry, I didn't even know he was in there.
What is your general take on Lechag?
Oh man, Lechag, I like Lechag. The tin is really good, peated. Yeah. Tobermory is the regular distillery. Lechag is what they call their peated stuff. The tin is awesome if you can find it. It's one of those that
yep.
It depends on the market. I know, like Foodquig, for example, in Victoria, Canada, he has a hell of a time trying to find Lechag 10.
Yes, he does.
But for me, it's like I could walk anywhere pretty much and pick up the 10 or the 18 or 15 or whatever. So
the 18 was hard. I ended up buying a bottle of that at the Whiskey Exchange last year because I couldn't find the 18 anywhere. And then I came back, and then 3 months later, I could find it. It was weird. But anyways, I bring this up because, and we can talk about this offline, but I have a line on a 24-year-old Lechag, 51.6% for probably around $160.
Wow, that's a really good deal. Is it an independent bottling or this?
Yeah, it's from a group called Chapter 7.
Okay, I am familiar with Chapter 7. They do good bottles. I have had a couple, and from what I remember, I'm trying to remember, I think it was a Kalila that I had and something else that was Chapter 7. And it wasn't bad, so hopefully that's where I usually first look when you talk about independence is who's actually doing it.
Right.
And that's a pretty good one. I like the Trooper Henry's Select makes great hand sanitizer. I had to put that one over there. That's true.
We should get a bottle of Frog Select and just do a live review of it.
Oh God, man. I don't want to be brutal to my people.
I know, man. I know.
It's the only one next to the Four Oak that I actually do not want to drink.
Do you think it's better than the Four Oak, though?
Now, that would be a hell of a shootout to have the Select and the Four Oak next to each other and see like which would come out on top. They're both like 40%, aren't they?
Yeah, I'll be real with you. I almost think that the Select is better than the Four Oak.
I was thinking the same thing, to be honest with you. I wasn't quite sure, but from what I remember, the Select had a little nice sweetness with it, even though it was really like thin and weak. It did have a nice corn-esque, like a bourbon kind of feel to it. The Four Oak was just, it was more savory and dull. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah.
The Lechag.
Connor just said that the independent bottlings of Lechag have been great. Search for Single Cask Nation. The 13 and the 15, yeah. Andrew Page says the Four Oak is better than the Select. I mean, It would be fun to do head to head. I think
Yeah.
it's gonna be like C and CA, you know. Like it's gonna be just like
It'd have to be a donation bottles because even at $30 for the select and probably 40 to 45 for the Four Oak, it wouldn't be worth the money to buy the bottles. Sadly,
yeah, no, I'm with you.
I do need a Four Oak bottle, so I'll get the Four Oak if you get the select. How about that?
Okay.
We'll get it. We'll put it away. We'll save it for like a rainy day when we're both like, let's do a review together. But we're kind of
destitute, living under the bridge, and yeah, right. After coronavirus has taken a turn for the worse,
we're skin and bones.
We'll be, 5 out of 5. It's the best whiskey I've ever had. It's the only whiskey I can get.
That's horrible, man. There you go. Andrew's saying both are not great, but would love to see a select live stream.
I think we're being called out. I think we got to do it.
I think it's worth the deal. And you asked Stephen when he thought about the 18.
Yeah, the Lecheg.
I have the Lecheg 18. It's the I'm trying to remember what the cask was for it. I want to say it was Manzanilla, but I'm probably wrong. I think it was a Manzanilla, which is reminiscent of like a dry, almost like a Fino type of sherry.
Okay. Oh, so it was one of the more special bottles, not the like standard release.
It's a standard, but it does have a cask influence to it. I remember, and I'll tell you what, I do like the 10. And it's a very good 10-year. The 18 is really, really good. I enjoyed that one a lot. I'm pretty sure it was. Let me. I can tell you. Just give me 1 second. I'll tell you exactly what the cask was on that guy. Chag 18. Here we go. Definitely peated. Here we go. Finished in X sherry.
Yeah, that makes sense.
This was intensely peated here. I can't even say it. Hebridean style, once made there before the distillery was revamped in 1990. It's Oloroso sherry casks without chill filtering. 46.3% ABV. 18. So I thought it was more specialized. I guess it was a straightforward Oloroso, but I do remember really liking that bottle a lot. I think it was like 110, if I remember correctly. 110 to 120, 150 at the absolute most, and it was worth every penny of it. I thought. Let me see what he says. I don't think I've had it, but I don't recall. So it was either terrible or shattering. I meant not terrible or earth-shattering. There you go. I think you would like it if you like Oloroso. I mean, that's the thing. It depends on what kind of sherry that you're mostly into.
No, I'm a big fan of Oloroso. I have 2 bottles of the Glendronach 18 Allardyce, which are 24-year-old.
Ooh.
With the stamp on them.
Guzzle, guzzle.
Yeah. So I have those sitting around, and we'll be able to indulge in that at some point. I also have one that's 15, so we can definitely compare.
Is the 15?
I love or not 15. I'm sorry, 21.
You have a Lecheg 21?
No. Glendronach.
Oh, Glendronach.
Allardyce 21.
Gotcha. That would be fun to do because, yeah, the Allardyce is good. It's definitely more dry, I think, and it's probably more Oloroso side. I think the Parliament has more PX balanced with it, which makes it a little bit better to me. But
all of them are PX with the exception of the
are they?
Allardyce is the only one of the core range that's fully Oloroso.
I guess it depends. If the Allardyce has a great finish on it, I remember. So maybe
fantastic.
Maybe the dryness.
Now, if you get them now, they're all back to 18-year because of that weird age variation thing. The 2019 was the cutoff, and so I luckily was able to get 2 from 2019, which are actually they're actually 24 years old. Wow. And now they're back to just straight up 18, as far as I understand.
Isn't that crazy?
And I personally think it's the best thing they make. I mean, I really like the 15. Even the new 15, I think is great. I don't like. There are some people who, compare it to the older 15, and I'm sure that's true. But the new 15, straight up for $100, I think is a great bottle. But the
Isn't it crazy?
dude, this is funny. I just saw in secondary market today a white label Lafroig 18 go for $220.
Oh gosh, I got an unopened bottle in my closet still.
I have three. I have 3 green labels unopened, and I have 2 white labels unopened. So that's also a comparison we should do at some point.
Holy shit, dude! Yes.
Yeah.
I tell you, Trooper, the way I found mine, to be honest with you, is I just went
Secondary
to
market.
No, I went to locally. I went to Prince George's County. I rolled up into
They had a Lafroig 18.
I rolled up in Prince George's, and it was an Indian family that ran it. And I went in and I was like, "Hey, let me take a look around." And I saw 2 white label 18s he still had, and I'm like, "How much are these?" He's like, "90 a piece." I'm like, "Sold." 90 a piece is a no-brainer, you know. For this. And I felt bad. I told him, I was like, "You realize that these are quite expensive now."
After you bought it, right? You didn't tell him that before that.
I was trying to be somewhat honest with him because I kind of felt bad because it was like a family ran store.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "No, I understand. They've been sitting here forever. I just can't sell them." And
and you were like, okay.
Sold.
Were they green or white labels? I'm not. Okay, let me just.
White labels.
I'm not sure there's a difference.
There is with the age, definitely, as far as like the
Really?
content. I've heard that the age as far as the bottling, that the green labels are the older versions of the white labels, if that makes sense to you. As far as like as far as the differences, though, in the batches, it's probably kind of similar to like Lafroig 10 batch strength today versus like 2 years ago, if that makes sense to you.
Your assessment is that there's actually that big of a difference between the white label and the green label of the 18?
I don't want to say big, but I think I think you'll tell a difference, but like which one is better and which one has different notes than the other, like that.
I'm not even concerned about better, but that they're different.
They're definitely different because the green labels are older than the white labels are. As far as like the green labels, were bottled a long time ago compared to the white ones.
Okay, well, I got a bunch of them, so let's do it.
It's kind of the same with like the Aaron 20, they have an old 21, I'm sure, or something similar. This one is also 21, but is it going to be same as the old 21? Most likely not, unless they pulled a whole we're just going to change marketing thing. But usually they only change shift lines when they shift makes. Usually that's when they do that kind of thing. Because it's a lot of money you got to think about how much money is to change your marketing. I mean, No,
I agree. This brings up a really good point, Telex. And I'm sure folks in the chat are going to have a bunch of opinions on this. Because when I first got into whiskey, it was one of the first things, when I first got into Scotch, it was one of the first things that I started noticing there was controversy about. It is when distilleries change their labeling, does the quality of the juice change? And I mean change in the sense that normal batch variation doesn't account for it. So, for example, earlier this year, I did a head-to-head review of Highland Park 12 Viking Honor and Highland Park 12. And they were, as best as I could assume, because I bought them at the closest time possible, within a year or two of each other at the most. Did I notice some difference? Yes. Is part of that my motivated reasoning? Maybe. Did I notice enough difference to say definitively Highland Park changed the quality of their formula for Viking Honor when they changed the label? No. I couldn't say it definitively. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying I couldn't say it definitively. So
I wouldn't say quality
all the time with Bunnahavens went through this recently. You see it, the Lafroig 18 green versus white. Like, do you think? And again, folks in the chat may have stronger opinions on this than I do. But like, my general feeling is when you account for normal batch variation, which especially with big distilleries like Laphroaig, is probably as consistent as possible. Is there actually a noticeable difference? I'm not sure.
I wouldn't say quality being the difference, but I would say that certain notes will be different. Like with the 12 old versus the new, like I'm sure you might have noticed like the matchstick being more prevalent than one than the other. You might have noticed like the fruit being a little bit more forward than the other one.
Yeah, but like, would you say definitively that that's not accounted for by batch variation?
I think that
I'm telling you, you go on Reddit. Again, I'm not saying that this is true or should be substantiated, but if you go on Reddit and you read a bunch, like there are people who swear to God that Highland Park 12 took a statistically significant dive towards the worst when they went to Viking Honor, and they can tell definitively by the way it tastes because they had a Highland Park 2 years ago and it was different. And my argument is that batch variation exists even in big distilleries who work overtime to ensure consistency. Is the my feeling is it probably isn't, but
I think it depends on the time between and how much of the shift was. Like when Balblair changed from their vintage to their year statement, that's a huge change.
I agree with you, and that's a little different though, because like that's like a more fundamental change. I think to be more specific, what I'm talking about is more the label change.
I know, but I'm getting to that. And then when the same thing with Old Pulteney, their new line is completely different than their 15 and new 18 versus their old 17 and 21. That's a major shift. That's like a major difference.
But those are two different whiskeys, though, right? I mean, like you would argue.
But when you get to like Laphroaig going from, let's say in 19, let's say the green labels. Do you know what year those were?
No, I mean let's say it's a 2013 green label and a 2014 white label.
I think it's a little bit older than that. See, I think it's the difference with that particular one is I have to look it up, but
I guess like what it presupposes is that like the distillery is thinking to themselves, not only are we going to change the label, but we're going to significantly water down the juice.
No. I think that what happens is they have a certain amount of 18 and a certain amount of 10, a certain amount of all their stuff. And then, after over 10 years, let's say the green label started in 1990. I'm just pulling a year out. And then from 1990 to 1998 was the green label. And then, and that was because they had the juice to last that long, and then they got their what do you call it? Their supplies depleted, and then they're like, okay, well, we're out of this line, but we still have this other line that has matured to 18 years. We also have a new 15, and we have a new whatever.
Right.
I think it was one of those things where they're repackaging something, but I also think that even though it's not as big of a change as the old Pulteney and Balblair stuff, it's enough of a change for them to make marketing changes. Because for them to make marketing changes, just like with Aaron, I think that they run out of the juice. And even though this is not the same 21 as the old 21, it's still 21-year juice, but they want to market it differently because it is a different make. A different core that they're building up, maybe.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, and I think that makes sense. And I think the only other question I would bring up is that, in a way, presupposes that there's a significant enough batch variation between the first green label that came out in 2000X and then the second green label that came out in 2000Y. And therefore, that the difference between green label Laphroaig 18s is actually more significant than the difference between the last green label 18 and the first white label, right? So in other words, the marketing change could be caused by, well, we noticed that through our focus group testing, people are more appealed to this color. We're going to change it to this color, rather than the juice itself, right? And so, like, variation would exist within the same brand logo as opposed to a different one, right? Like, I don't think it's I think it's uncontroversial to say Ardbeg Ugadal, when it came out in the first 2 years, is probably an objectively older whiskey than Ardbeg Ugadal now. But would you make the same argument about the Laphroaig 18 in the sense that, like, okay, I got a bottle of Green Label that came out in 2013. They switched to White Label in 2014 or whatever year it was. That, like, somehow the difference was an intentional move by Laphroaig to rebrand it in order to sell younger whiskey.
No,
I'm not sure that, like, that's what I think is the crux of this, because batch variation and all that I think exists standard. I mean, I might be wrong, but like you understand what I'm saying? Like maybe to some degree that there's like, and you got a Ballblair, like, of course, like, I'm with you. Ballblair's 18-year-old is not going to be the same as the Ballblair 1999 vintage release that was, you know, close to 18 years old, whatever. Like, they've changed significantly. I'm talking about specifically just like, we're just changing the label on this bottle.
I think there's lots of different levels to it. I don't think it's like black and white where it's, okay, all these guys are complete changearoos like the Old Pultneys and Ballblairs, and all these guys are straightforward Highland Park. Let's just change the marketing but keep similar juice. I think there's a lot of like layers to it where it depends on the reasoning, because I think that, like, when you mentioned the age of when Laphroaig changed the green to the white, I think it's a big deal. I think it's important to know when it happened, because, you know, if it was at a certain time, it might dictate, well, this line was, you know, around for 20 years, and then it changed in 1995, we'll just say.
Right.
And then, you know, and then the white labels lasted from 1996 to 2000, whatever. I think it depends on the lineage of, you know, you picture, like, you know, parallel lines of a core, and you know, and after a time, all these are going to, you know, run low and get depleted. They have, even if they have another 18, like, let's say this is an 18 here, and this is an 18 here, but this is the new 18, this is the old 18. It's like, I think it's like a family. In when this runs low enough, they prepare this line, and then they just, you know, replace it at a certain point.
Yeah.
It depends on, I think, how long that whiskey was around.
And that goes to like, you're right. I think that's true. But I mean, like, let's talk about lore. So Laphroaig lore has been on the market for what, 5 years, 6 years? There's no doubt that, in my mind, and I can't prove it, and I haven't experienced it firsthand, but logically it makes sense, that the first batches of Laphroaig lore had older whiskey than the Laphroaig mixed in than there are now. But they didn't change the label. Like, they didn't just go like, oh shit, this has changed so much, we better change the label in order to be more like branded as a new whiskey. So in other words, it's relatively, they're saying it's the same profile, give or take a little bit. And in other words, there's batch variation, but not that it's a totally significantly different whiskey.
But the thing, though, is that if, like, let's say, and the only reason lore exists is because they did run out of 18 years.
Well, right.
You know? Yeah. And that's basically the new 18-ish whiskey that they have. Now, let's say in 5 years from now, they have a 10, a 12, a 16, a lore, and a 21. Just for, you know, that's their new core. Yes, the lore might be the same to a point, but they ran out of that line and they had to start a whole new line. I think that's where you run into that whole. I don't think they just changed the 18 green to white. I think they changed everything across the board for that particular year, because they had a whole line that ran out and they have a whole new line they want to introduce, if that makes sense. It's kind of like a multiple offering core deal here.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
it used to be like 10, 15, 18 was like their core, right? They run out of the 15 and 18, they scrap the whole thing and they go, okay, here's your 10, your quarter cask, your lore, your triple wood, and you know, and that's your new core kind of thing. But there's so many variables to it. I think it makes it extremely complicated to try to figure out. Okay, is this just a batch variation? Is this like a completely new make?
Well, and that's exactly my point. Is like I think that there's like you may be right. I just think that like there's a lot of there's speculation, which leads to like I think controversy that may not be warranted in that it is not just batch variation, but rather a full reformulation of the juice and the use of changing the brand. For example, Highland Park 18 to Highland Park 18 Viking Pride is to say that not only are we rebranding because we want to sell more because people in our focus group react more to Game of Thronesy Viking heritage stuff than they did in the other one, but that we're also diluting the juice to make it less quality in order to like sell more under the auspices of this new brand.
No, I hear you. And I do think it's so complicated when it comes to. I guess it depends on the reason why they make the change. Was it because they ran out of juice, or was it just full-fledged?
You would argue that sometimes they run out of juice and don't make a change. like Lore ran out of juice. Like Lore definitely, like I guarantee you, when Lore came out, they were putting 5% of like 24-year-old Lefroy in that to sell it, and then as people got acclimated to the Lore, maybe they started putting 20-year-old.
And that's why it started out at $130 a bottle. It was $130 when I started buying.
Yeah, now it's like what, $80?
Yeah, and that's the reason why is because it does. They had that 30 or 18 year whatever they had in there, and then they get lower and lower, and they it's just it's funny. I would look at Lord just as like an internal blend. Is all it really is. It's an internal blend.
Yeah, and a good one at that. For the record, like, I think Lord is great. It's great whiskey.
I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying that it's like we've got really old stuff around, guys. We've got some 15 stuff around. Let's not waste it. Let's make something out of it. And I think that's where the lore came from, was they had the 15, the 18, and they still had some smattering of like you said, 20 whatever year stuff. And let's do our own blend. We can't call it a 27. Hell,
and that to some degree is like one of the ways in which distilleries probably get away with certain things, right? You introduce a new whiskey, it's an NAS. You put a little older stuff in when the first batch released because the first impression matters. You get a bunch of validators like you and I. We run out, we buy the first batch, and we say, "Oh God, this is great! Like, what a great NAS whiskey!" 2 years later, they've removed the core aged element of it, and it's still good but not great, and we don't what was it like 2 years ago? I don't quite remember. And by then the brand of that specific release has taken on a life of its own, and maybe that's just part of the game. But like you could do like Highland Park could have done that without putting a Viking Honor label on. In other words, whether or not they were going to dilute or lower the subjective quality of their whiskey in order to sell it more, they were pretty on the nose about it when they make Viking Honor, as opposed to just doing the same thing with the Highland Park 12. In other words, there are more factors at play in the rebranding of something than just necessarily the change of the formula or something like that.
Right. That's a good point. I guess we'll see if the Twisted Tattoo 3 years from now is the same 16-year juice.
That's a great point.
Because it was great out of the box, and it's got a year statement, so surely the next 3 years, the 16-year-old stuff should be the same. But is it going to be limited where they only release it for like a year or two and stop selling it? That's the good question,
Yeah, and that'll be interesting. By the way, I do have some of that 16. I'm going to go pour it right now, but I got to get some more water. So let me take a minute. I'll be right back.
No problem, man. I appreciate it. It's a tough one when it comes to the. What do you guys think? Do you think it's the same thing as far as that Fourth bottle, still enjoying it. Consider I'm lucky enough to get it locally at 80. Haven't noticed differences, but wouldn't be surprised if it changed. Yeah, the only way I think you could really tell is if you had the first, we'll go back, we'll say four, like if you had a 4-year-old bottle, like the first series of the one you got and a new one, and then try them side by side. I don't think you're going to notice a huge difference, but I do think that the notes of like the sherry and maybe the complexity, the refinement, you could probably detect a difference of those three things. That's my guess, but unless you've got a way to really, reformulation with the same label would be a breach of trust. That would be disappointing. That's true. No, I agree, and that's why I think they had to change the. Maybe that's why they did go through the whole Viking change. Was that they couldn't make exactly the same product they could before, even at a 12-year statement. So they had to call it something different. But marketing is scary. It's weird. Lucas is looking forward to the lore the most, and for me, it's Corey Frecken. Yeah. Oh man, that would be a great heads up like battle. The lore versus the Korivrekken. The Korivrekken I think I would like a little bit better because to me it's more complex with the spice level. It's got the black and white pepper. It's got cinnamon and nutmeg and all sorts of crazy spices going on with it. The lore though is a great sherried. It's got some old juice in there, whiskey. Oh, it's got a great peat level, but Ardbeg's they're no sap either. They give you a lot of good peat with that Korivrekken. I don't know. I can't choose, but I think I would lean towards the Korivrekken just because of the complexity on that one. The HP12, the entry level bottle, was the Magnus. No, well. Here, this is the way to look at it, I would say, Ben. The Magnus is the entry level to the entire distillery. If you want to try your first Highland Park, I'd say the Magnus would be the best way to do it, unless you want to make the investment and go ahead and go get the 18. I love the 18, and I haven't had the Viking Pride. I had the old 18. I love it. It's one of the best whiskeys. As far as the entry level, though, would be the Magnus. The 12 would be the second step up because the Magnus is their NAS. And every distillery usually has a NAS offering to be their entry level. Usually it's around 25, 30, 35, up to about $50 is where they try to stop that entry level. The 12 is going to be, a higher price, I would say. I caught him midstream.
Oh shit! Look what I found.
There you go. Yep, we were just talking about the. Ben was asking about the Magnus or the 12 being the entry, and I was just explaining to the guys that most of the time, Deanston does the same thing with the Virgin Oak. Every distillery has like a NAS entry level bottle. The 12 is usually their second step. Bunnahabhain's the same with the Storliadair being their entry NAS, the 12-year being their second step kind of thing.
I have not had the Storliadair, but I'll tell you this much. The 12 is freaking fantastic. I just did a review of it on my channel. If anybody here, I'm assuming most of you guys are fans of the show. If not, check it out. I gave it a 4 out of 5 because it is probably
the best. Damn good. It's the
best. Question. Top 3 12 years.
It's the best Islay non-peated Scotch I've ever had, definitely by far.
One of the best 12-year peated Scotch, or 12-year Scotches, period, in my opinion. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Oh, you said top 3 12 years, man.
And okay, let me make a caveat. Top 3 12-year Lost Causes heading out. Cheers, buddy. Good to see you. When I say top 3 12 years, I mean we're not talking about Springbank 12 cast strength. We're not talking about Lefroy or Lagavulin 12 cast strength. We're talking about like your standard every day. You go to the store, it's the standard release.
The Glendullan 12 has to be up there because that's one of my favorite bottles. I'll definitely put that in the top 3. The Bunnahabhain 12 will have to be up there. I have to say, look, thinking about it, straightforward 12 years.
Yep.
And third would probably be the Highland Park 12. Bunnahabhain, Highland Park, and Glendronach, I think, would be. I don't know. What do you think?
Those are mine too.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't think there's no daylight between you and I on that one, my friend. And here are my reasons. If you want an introduction, now granted, the Glendronach 12 is a little bit pricier than most introductory sherried whiskeys.
Yeah.
But if you want to straight up try a sherried whiskey,
you can't get better out of the box.
Pressed to get a better one than the Glendronach. The Lasanta is good, but the Lasanta's good. The Glenfarclas 12 is okay, but you just can't beat it. I think it's worth the extra $10-15. Highland Park 12, best all-around whiskey, period, in my opinion. I can pour a glass of that anytime and never be disappointed. There's just no doubt about it.
I hear you. I would say Springbank 10, but it's so overpriced now. $75-$80 for a 10-year whiskey.
I've seen it for $100.
Ugh, that just pains my heart.
Yeah, it's brutal. I think the only other 12 that I think might be in contention with the Highland Park Glendronach. What was your third one?
Bunnahabhain 12.
Oh, yeah, the Buna, which, again, is just so good. The only other one that I think might be in contention strictly on price is Kahlua 12.
And the Kilkerran 12. Those are two really good priced. $65.
Yeah.
A nice 12-year-old Campbelltown goodness. Glen Scotia 15 is not a 12-year, but the Glen Scotia 15 is really, really, really damn nice too.
Here's your page saying, still waiting to pull the trigger on the Highland Park full volume. Can get it for 80, but a 40-minute drive.
Dude, that I if you like ex-bourbon casks, I would go. But if you like, to me, I personally wouldn't think it's. I mean, I spent probably about that, maybe up to $100 for it. But if you like a straightforward ex-bourbon cask, that is one of the best you can get, I think, next to like a Springbank local barley or something.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I never had the full volume, but that's close to $100 bottle, isn't it?
It is, but it's not an NAS. It's actually at least 14 years. I mean, it's got an age statement, but
it's not. This isn't all full first fill bourbon. But how would you compare it to the full to the 50?
It's extremely comparable. I would say it's extremely similar with quality. I prefer the Twisted Tattoo just because my palate. But if you are like a Lagavulin 8 fanatic, if you like the local barley 16 or 10 or whatever Springbank, if you like a straightforward bourbon cask, like one of those Kilchoman specialized deals, it doesn't have the ABV per se. I can't remember what the ABV on it is. Let me do a quick look.
I think it's relatively high. I mean, I think it was like over 48%, if I'm not mistaken.
Is it 50? If it's 50, I will definitely say jump on it. Let me see something. The full volume, 82, 47.2%, 47.2.
Okay.
And it's funny. It's one of those bottles they should have like advertised better, I think, because I think it is a 14-year or something really close to that. But it is extremely straightforward ex-bourbon. It's not a complex bottle, but if you just want a really deep, rich ex-bourbon cask, I'd say go definitely for 80. $100 is where I would draw the line on that one, probably. But
$100?
Yeah, at the most.
That makes sense.
Wow, the lore in Alberta was 140 Canadian. That's just crazy.
Damn.
Want to get the Carriages wine cask finish? Yeah, that's a great bottle. That's one of my favorites.
Speaking of that, Telex, that one's going to be coming in a bit more expensive than the regular Carches.
Oh, he's talking about the new one. I thought he was talking about the Pheno.
No, this is the new one, the red wine port finish. I mean, this one's going to be over $100.
I want it too, but all these red wine casks are like the Ardbeg Black was like 140, I think, for the CR and 120 for the LR. It's like, I guess these red wine casks are damn expensive. Is that why they're charging so much for them?
It must be. Do you say thoughts on the Corey Vrecken? Oh, no, wait.
Yeah, I was talking to him about the Corryvreckan versus the lore. I prefer the Corryvreckan just because of the complexity. But if I'm looking for just a straightforward, good sherry dram, then the lore maybe would get me.
The interesting thing about the lore, I don't think I've ever had a whiskey where I could, like, the markers between the maturations were so distinct. Like, I remember drinking the lore, and it was like you literally go like step one, like phase one, phase two, phase three in very distinct fashion. Whereas the Corryvreckan, and I'm not saying that's good or bad, I'm just saying it's unique to the lore. The Corryvreckan I thought was just, again, I mean, one of the most intense whiskeys I've ever had. I used to say Ugadal is my favorite Ardbeg. I haven't had an Ugadal in a while. I did just recently have a Corryvreckan, and I liked it a lot more than the first time. It's tough.
I think you get a great point. I think the lore, if you want refinement and complexity, the lore would be maybe better.
Well, lore tastes like it's designed.
Yeah, it's like it's crafted better, maybe. But the Corryvreckan might equal complexity, but it definitely has more of a powerful punch in your face.
Totally. God. The palate on the Corryvreckan is one of the most intense whiskeys I've ever had. There's no doubt about it.
He did a standard side-by-side with the lore and the standard black release and preferred the Ardbeg. That's interesting to know. I haven't tried the new standard black. I only had the CR.
I haven't either, yeah.
I need to get my hands on that before it goes to secondary market, because if I don't get it soon, I'll probably have to spend crazy money for it.
Yeah, totally.
I can't keep up with them either, Snack.
Nope, me neither. I hear you on that.
Oh, man. 12. I can't. I don't know, brother has a bottle. He prefers the Wolfburn Northland. Wow. That's one distillery I have not tried yet. That it's on my radar to try to pull the trigger, but I want to get like the Aurora or one of the sherry bottles if I could find it.
The Morven?
For the Wolfburn.
Yeah, the Morven was one that I recall had pretty good accolades. I've never had any of those.
He's not our biggie. Wow, I'm way behind on the comments. Let me go back.
Yeah, go ahead, catch up.
16 years blended casks. Yeah, that makes sense, because I remember seeing that they didn't put an age statement on it, but it was at least like a 14 or 16 year. That makes sense to me. The local barley 16 is not a regular Scotch. It's nectar from the gods. I don't know about that. I had the... Did I have the 16? I think I had a sample of it, and I had my own bottle of the 10, but I had the sherried version of the 10 release, because they had like a 9, a 10 bourbon, and a 10 sherried. I was lucky enough to get the 10 sherried, and I liked it a lot, but the straightforward ex-bourbon casks, I gotta have something else in there usually for me to be interested. But I'm not saying it's not bad, or good or bad or whatever, but no, I agree that you're definitely going to pay the secondary market for that. It's going to be crazy for the 16-year local barley. It better be nectar for the gods for what you had to spend for it. I agree. Tobermory is one of the best, even non-peated scotches. If you want to get like the 21, it's not expensive. Grab the Tobermory 21, and it's very, very well done. I think what is one of the most underrated scotches, basic ones that you can think of even higher ages. I think Tobermory is one of those that nobody really takes a look at that probably should. Anybody that you like that?
Enoch.
Yeah, Enoch is another one that's. I'm hoping that their old line stays the way it is for a while if we're lucky. Still find the old bottling at 15 and 100. Definitely. You got to get that, dude. That's a great the old 15. It's usually I found it here for 110 to 120, a little more expensive, but it has really good tropical notes with the 12 features. If you like the 12 with some added pineapple, some coconut, and some tropical feel to it, I think it's worth it.
Glengoyne 12?
I would prefer the Glendronach because the mouth feels so heavier compared to the real thin deal of the What do you think about that as far as
You're talking about the Glengoyne 12 versus the
Glendronach 12? I like the mouthfeel better on the Glendronach 12 to me.
I've not had the Glengoyne 12, so I can't speak to it directly, but my general impression of the Glengoynes is, yeah, I'd probably go Glendronach on that.
Not to say that Glengoyne doesn't make a good, nice, heavier dram, but you have to go toward either the teapot or the cask strength or the 20, whatever it was, 21, I think it was, 25, one of those.
The 25 is the one that's 48%. I got a bottle of that, by the way. I got a bottle of the 25. It was like $3.29, and the same shop that I bought it from, 2 months later, it's up to $4.20 now.
Damn,
So
you got a great deal on that, man.
That was the end of the line. I think that Glengoyne's prices have went up.
Did you already open that 25?
I haven't. I'm going to open it later this year for a special uncorking, though.
Yeah, please save that one.
Yeah, I don't get bottles like that very often, so I'm very excited about it.
Especially for that great of a deal, too, man. That's insane. That's like getting the Black Arts for like $200.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
That's what I need. I need to walk into like some old dusty, old geezer in the back with his Black Arts 1.1 bottle for like $150. That would be awesome.
To get it off the shelf.
Could you imagine that? Could you keep your composure if you saw like a?
Hey man, I don't know. I think we might have talked about this a few months ago, but it might be worth revisiting. Like those few moments, and I think everybody has them, especially in their whiskey journeys. The moment where you walk into a place or you run into a guy who is selling something at a price that is just criminally lower than it's supposed to be. And I definitely have my own story from that, but I'd be interested, Telex, if you have one. Did you ever score a bottle that was way cheaper or way better than not? It should have been for the price, respectively.
It was just that story about the Supernova and the Blazda and the old 2008 Ugadal for like all for $250 or something crazy like that. That's the only time that wasn't in a store. I'm trying to think back to a store price that was. I've never been really lucky that I can think of on basic store prices. Other than that Lafroig 18 for $90 was probably the best deal in a store that I could think I ever got. And that's not, that's pretty damn good. What about for you? Oh, the Lafroig 27.
28. The 28.
28. Oh, geez. Yeah. Even better.
Yeah, that's my best story by far. Is the for everybody watching, if you don't recall, I think we maybe went over this a few months ago, but my younger brother, who it is his birthday today, I will raise a glass to him. Cheers to Evan. I got a bottle.
How old is he?
He is now 35.
Oh, cool. Are you younger or older than he is? I'm just curious.
I'm older. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You're older than 35. I thought you were probably younger. I thought you might be like 32 or 33.
I'm an old man, dude. I'm 30. I'm like 39 this year.
That's good though. Okay, I wasn't too far off at least.
So, he's a bourbon guy, and he likes to text me. He likes to text me all these like pictures of scotches that he sees. He's not known much shit about scotch. So he sends me all these pictures of scotches. He's like, you want this? You want this? I came across this. And I'm always like, oh, what's the price? And it's like, not good.
Yeah.
So one day he texts me a picture of Lafroig 28. And I'm like, yeah, same as usual. I'm like, haha, yeah, what's the price on that? He goes, $199.
Oh, God.
And I go, I literally responded back to him. I have a screenshot of it to buy every bottle he had. He's got one. And I said, where are you? And he said, well, no, he's at his normal local shop with a guy who knows whiskey.
Do you ever watch South Park?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Do you call his mom when she goes, what?
Yeah.
That's what you did.
I was like, yeah, buy every bottle he has. And he's like, he's got one of them. And I was like, buy it. And I still was like incredulous. I'm thinking he's joking.
Oh, yeah. So, for a 28-year Lafroig.
Take care, Daniel.
It was distillery bottle too, right?
No, it's just the regular release. I mean, I don't know how many they made.
That's what I mean. Like, it's a distillery bottle, not an independent bottling, right?
Correct. Oh, yeah. Correct.
Yeah.
This guy was selling Lafroig 28 for $200.
That's nuts.
And he sent it to me in the mail, and I got it. I was beside myself. I mean, that's a $700 bottle. 600, 800, depending on where you are. And I was just like, what? What? Like, you're kidding, right? And he's legit. $199.99 tag on it.
That is crazy.
And I guess the story goes, the guy, he owns a shop where my brother lives, which is in suburban Milwaukee. They just don't sell scotch. And he was just MSRP.
Wow, man.
And so I got it. I haven't opened it yet. It's sitting behind me. And it's going to be something I open up for a special occasion. I'm not sure what that'll be, but.
Tell him to let me know if he ever sees something like that again. That's for sure.
Yeah, man. I mean, dude, like I thought it was a joke.
Hey, Swami and Steven, let us know if you've ever had a good deal in a store. Like if you walked up to a store, you would go inside, if you saw like a crazy great price. I'm just curious if Swami or Steven or anybody.
I mean, it's all part of the journey, right, man? It's one of the fun parts of the journey is like when you get to the point where you're kind of in that I don't know, whatever you want to call it, intermediate level, where like you know a thing or two about scotch. You're ready to chase some older stuff, and you know enough about prices, and all of a sudden you see something that's like, nah, man, that's way cheaper than it's supposed to be.
Oh man, I would give anything to walk up and see a Macallan. Macallan would be the best thing to see cheap, because I even though I think they're way overpriced, like Dalmore and other distilleries are, some of them. But I do like Macallan's like quality sometimes. If I could go in and find the Macallan like 21 fine oak for like $100, dude, oh my, holy shit! I'd buy like 3 or 4 bottles right there.
Yeah. Somebody says it's 5-finger discount. So next says, what's your limit?
5-finger discount, Swami. You're horrible, man. What's your limit as far as like, what do you mean? What's my limit?
I'm assuming he's talking about how much you would spend on a bottle.
Oh, I mean, if it's just me, I try to keep it underneath 300 if I can. But yeah. if Malt and I go in on a bottle, I'd say 600 maybe.
Agreed.
That would be fair.
Yeah, I'm the same way. If it's Scotch, I'll go 350 max. And again, that's sparingly. I can count on one hand how many whiskeys I paid that were over 300. I have 3 bottles of Brook-Lottie Blackguard 4.1, which I paid $320 a piece for. I have 2 Lafroig 25s, which were $325. I have a Glengoyne 25, which was $310. I don't think I've paid more than $300 for anything else. And I probably won't. I can't, and I won't. But bourbon, you're hard pressed to get me to spend over $100.
Yeah, that's definitely. I'm the same way.
Unless it's a BTAC, like weird exclusive, I might pull it. But that's about where I'm at.
Yeah, little Trevon, I haven't even opened yet, which I've heard kind of mixed reviews on. I'm kind of hoping it's better than what I hear.
That's that 19-year-old Arbig.
That was that was about 300-ish, and then I think the Lagavulin 18 Fischl I got for around 280, so that's pretty close. I haven't opened up that one yet, and the other one that would be in that kind of caliber range. Oh man,
that's the thing, that when you're in that intermediate range with Scotch, you're vulnerable as hell, because you realize that you're like, you got to be on the lookout for the deal, man. The deal of the century, because you're always reaching, right? When you're in that intermediate level, when you're like, oh, I feel like I understand 18-year-olds and 15-year-olds and like maybe a 20-year-old here and there. When you see one of those that's older than that and it's at a good price, man, you're looking to pull the trigger, and so it's dangerous.
That's how I felt with the Monroic and the Aaron. It's like, well, a 21 for 120 to 150. I mean, that's like a no-brainer, but are they going to be any good? Hopefully to God, it'll be at least, somewhat decent.
Yeah. There's some good chat coming up on this.
Best deal was a Macallan 30 from a store in Evansville, Indiana. Oh, for a sub underneath 2,500. Only bottle I've ever bought that I knew I'd never open. Wow. Oh, no kidding, man. The Macallan 30.
Next said, Swami says the price quality differential isn't there. So, and you and I have talked about this before, and I think Swami and I have as well, where cost matters to some degree. I'm on ratings. And I know Swami introduces cost into his ratings, but his point there about price, the quality differential not being there at a certain price. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never had a Highland Park 25, which is $600. Like I don't know. I can only imagine.
I've had it, but it's not worth it. I've had it at a sample, but it's not worth that crazy money. Because I mean, it's good. It's just like the 18 with more tropical notes, if you can believe it.
Yeah, you want tropical notes at 21? Yeah, no, I'm with you. But that's where it comes down to, man. And like, this is the thing. And like, I consider this. I look at the Glengoyne. I'm like, Glengoyne 18, which I didn't love, is like 120. Glengoyne 21 is like 160. And then Glengoyne 25 is like 350. And I'm like, is that 4 years really worth $200 more of my money compared to what you can get out of it? And I don't know. Probably the answer is no.
I wouldn't think
that's a good question. For me, 80. I look for deals, man. 80 to 100. Well, that's not fair. Let me pull that back. I think in the 90 to 130 range, if I want to get a good bottle of scotch, is about where I'm at. Anything more than that, I feel like I'm paying a lot.
I try to get them in twos if I can because of shipping. I could get like a 250 bottle if I wanted to, but just do a one-off. But to me, that's kind of tough because I like to have at least a couple coming in. So I usually do like 150 being like a good buy on a decent, 18-year-ish bottle, and then a lower one with it. So I would look at it either as like 150-ish or maybe 200. It would be the most regularly. But when you say regular, you have to give me the interval. Is it like once a month? Is it once every 2 weeks?
Every week.
Thing, That's the tough.
But for bourbon, for me, just to be honest, like I don't like any bourbon that's over 60. I'm highly suspect of. I just won't pay it. Like I think that the variation, again, I've maybe had 100 bourbons. For me, the variation between a $100 bourbon and a $60 bourbon is much closer than a $100 scotch and a $60 scotch.
Yeah, I definitely try to keep it to around, like you said, like 1 to 150. I think is a good scotch. 15 to 18-year-old price range to shoot.
And I'll hunt for it, man. Like whether it's internet or going into shops, man, like that $15-20 makes a difference for me. And so like I'll hold off. I'll hunt around as much as I can.
Last question for you. If Macallan found a way to lower their price a little bit, like on their 15 to 18, do you think they would sell more scotch, or do you think that they would lose money? Because I noticed that the Macallan 15 to 18 prices are like,
I've never had a Macallan 18, and the reason I haven't is because it's a $230 bottle. Do you know you can get a bottle of a Knock 24 for like less than a Macallan 18.
Exactly. I mean, I wonder if their marketing people or the business side ever thinks, would we sell more scotch if we sold it at a more reasonable price? You would think they would, no?
No, I think they sell it at that because that's what they can get, because Macallan is a brand name that they've convinced. Again, I'm not hating on Macallan per se. I'm just saying that like their branding has led to a place where they know they can get $250 for an 18-year-old whiskey because Macallan is synonymous with quality in John Q. Public's mind.
Yeah.
I'm not saying their whiskey is bad. I'm just saying they can charge more because of what it is. I wouldn't pay it. I think that's what it is. And like, if Macallan couldn't get that for an 18-year-old, they'd lower the price.
Now, I agree with both of you guys that they're very hyped. No, but who's worse? And I look at it as Macallan's bad, but Dalmore is worse because Dalmore doesn't have the quality to back up their shit. That's the thing. They don't even have the quality to back up their shit. So they're charging the same shit for the 18. They rose it up to $220
It's a 40% whiskey.
And it's 43%, and it doesn't even taste nearly as good as if you do, have something like
their 12-year-old is $70, and it's probably the worst 12-year-old you can get if you want a sherry whiskey.
Isn't that the craziest thing ever? I'm like,
look at their bottle. I mean, like, look at the whiskey in the bottle. I mean, just look at it. I'm going to be honest with you. Dalmore 12 is the first sherry Scotch I ever bought. Why did I buy it? Because I didn't know anything about whiskey. I was just trying stuff. And I looked at Dalmore. It has a cool label. The color looked amazing. I didn't know anything about E150A or why I should care about any of this. It looked good. And this is me in 2015. I'd like to think I know a little bit more about whiskey now. I wouldn't have bought a Dalmore since. And but their marketing makes you think it's quality. It's just what it is.
That's true. Isn't it weird do you think that Dalmore and Macallan especially Dalmore, maybe a little bit Macallan, if they took the money they spent on marketing and invested it into their craft, don't you think they would make a much better whiskey?
They would. Yeah, they'd make a better whiskey, but that's not the point, because the whiskey that they're trying to sell isn't for you. They're not trying to sell you and me.
I just don't understand how someone could afford it.
Henry or to Andrew Page or Snacks Next or Malted in Montreal or Stephen Conn. They're not trying to sell whiskey to you.
But I don't understand how they could put all this effort into making an 18-year-old whiskey. I mean, who's going to? I guess there's enough people out there that don't know what they're doing to spend money on an 18-year-old whiskey.
Why do people buy Johnny Walker Blue Label for $200?
Yeah, that's a good question, I guess.
You know what they do? Because they give it to somebody as a gift, and it looks like quality. In the public mind, it's a quality whiskey. And look, I've had Johnny Walker Blue. It's not bad. But, is it $200 whiskey? Fuck no.
Yeah, that's where they get you.
So, it's not about that. I get the idea of analyzing it from a perspective of what it actually is. But at the end of the day, they're not marketing that. What is that guy, Patterson? He's not running around the country trying to tell people how to drink whiskey because he wants to tell you how to do it. He's trying to tell random people like me 5 years ago who was like, how do I enjoy Scotch? And then his video comes up and I'm like, I'm supposed to throw my whiskey on the ground? What?
Yeah, that's when it gets to that level, it's almost like Three Stooges time or something.
Yeah, but when you don't know, you don't know.
I'm surprised people are willing. I'm surprised that there's people that make that kind of money where they'll shell out $300 or $400 on something and not know what the hell they're investing their money in. That's what
it's not about that. It's about the status symbol it represents. It's not about the whiskey.
Most
people aren't whiskey drinkers.
That's so sad.
It is, but it's this isn't exclusive to whiskey. I don't think.
No, it's not. It's shoes. It's everything. You're right, but I'm just damn. Come on.
Yeah, man. If Macallan could sell an 18-year-old whiskey, if they couldn't sell it at $230, they wouldn't. They just wouldn't. And I'm not saying an 18. I've never had an 18-year-old Macallan because it'll be a cold day in hell before I'll pay $200 some for a fucking 18-year-old whiskey from Macallan when I can get a Glendronach Allardyce for $70 cheaper, let alone a bunch of other better ones.
Just promise me that you'll get the Macallan before you get the Dalmore 18.
That I will do, because I'll never buy a Dalmore 18.
There you go.
I can't do it.
It's not a huge difference, but I do think that at least Macallan has a little bit better craft, and I'm talking a little bit better than Dalmore when it comes to.
Throttle's in the house.
Yeah,
he's too. He's talking shit about my vape oil. Love you, Throttle. How are you, my friend?
Loves what did you call it, Daniel? You called it he had a word for you vapors.
Hey man, I don't vape because I want to. I vape because it got me off cigarettes.
No, I hear you.
I'm over 100 a 1 year mark now.
Congratulations! I was the same way. I did. I smoked Marlboro Reds from age 15 until July the 7th, 2012 at 3 a.m. is when I stopped, and I smoked a pack a day of Marlboro Reds or Camel Wides. I did Newport, menthols. I did it all, man. And I was a freight train. And
the reason you do is because smoking is We like it. It's fun. It's delicious. It's satisfying. It's validating. The vape has got me off of that, and eventually I'll get off the vape. But I'll tell you, man.
If I had that as an option, I would rather do that. I did it with Zyban at the time. Was the only they didn't have Shantex. They only had Zyban at the time, and but it definitely, thankfully, it worked. But every once in a while, I still like a good cigar or a vape or something.
Oh, for sure. But man, yeah, getting off cigarettes is one of the better things you can do.
It's I definitely rather do that than toke the carcinogens and all that other shit that comes with it.
I never in my entire life thought I would quit. And I did when I moved to PA. And part of the reason I was able to is because I just leaned on the vape. It saved me from being a smoker.
You know how addicting it is. Like right now, just talking about it makes me want to have so bad, dude.
Of course. And there's a simple reason, because it's amazing. I want a cigarette all the time. Like, of course, if I think about it, I want to have a cigarette. Like,
isn't that crazy? And I used to have.
I can't think of many things better than it. For me, it was Camel Blue or Camel Lights, a Camel Light, and a glass of whiskey. I can't think of many things that I would enjoy more. But I settle for 80% of that, and the vape gets me through, and eventually I'll get off that, and so on and so forth.
There you go. We're going to end it with the douche flute.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
No, don't knock it, man, because I agree. If I had the vape as the option instead of Zyban, I would have jumped all over the vape, because I tell you what, that Zyban, even though it's effective and it worked for me, I went through 2 weeks of hell where I couldn't taste. I mean, it was funny because, when your taste buds wake up, I'm not sure if you experienced this, but I couldn't eat anything for like a week because it was so painful to eat anything because my tongue was waking up and actually being able to taste shit. It was the most painful, excruciating. I would rather be trying to get off heroin than I would cigarettes. That's how bad it was, dude. It was a fucking nightmare. It was god awful.
Yeah, I hear you, man.
Well, I guess we better wrap it up.
Check your email. I hit you with a private chat, but check your email. But with that, I'm happy to. I think we're going to sign off here.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I didn't look at it yet, but I will definitely look at it after the fact. You sent it to me, you said?
Yeah, I sent it to your email.
Okay. I don't think let me see if it. Oh, gotcha. All right, man. Yeah, it sounds good. I will see you guys for now. Please stay tuned. Malt Muser does his show. When do you do your releases of your new videos, like your reviews?
Yeah, weekly reviews are every Friday, and then I do the pre happy hour for our shows every Tuesday at 8 p.m.
Yeah, check them out, and I really appreciate you guys, having fun with us and sticking around.
Yeah,
thanks so much.
Fun. Even when Throttle's here, it's still good fun, which is
oh yeah, Alberta for the win, Moose Straw, baby.
Love you, Throttle. You guys take good care.
See ya.
Yeah, take care.